Vata is involved or controller of movements, circulation, breath moving, bile, anything that moves in the body is Vata. Anything that has to do with digestion and metabolism at the level of the body and the mind is Pitta,
Mm.
fire, and water. And also Vata, which you said it's prana, but it's air and space, you could say it's prana, and Vayus, all the movements. It also includes the mind, movement of the thoughts and imagination and things of that nature. So Pitta is metabolism and digestion at the level of the mind and body. And Kapha is structure. Earth and water are very
Mm.
heavy. And
Mm.
so they have substance.
Hey there, welcome to the Recharge Biomedical Podcast. I'm Dr. Edward Park, and if you're curious about regenerative medicine, you've come to the right place. We're diving into the latest breakthroughs in telomerase activation, stem cell exosomes, and all the cutting-edge science that's shaping the future of healing and longevity. Let's get started. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Ed Park, and this is another episode of the Recharge Biomedical Podcast. Today, we're very thrilled to be joined by Dr. Atusa Madhavi, and she's going to teach us about yoga and Ayurveda. Welcome, Dr. Madhavi.
Thank you, Ed, Dr. Ed, I guess. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I met this doctor about, 2 months ago at the Conscious Life Festival. She had booked late this year, so she had the 9 o'clock slot, and there were, about 15 really eager people. But I talked to her before. I said, I'm a medical doctor. She said, oh no, you're going to hate my lecture. But I didn't hate her lecture. I loved her lecture. In fact, I doubled down in the questions. I said, I'm so glad people don't blindly trust their doctors after the pandemic now. So, I last 2 weeks ago, I had a great experience going to a conscious, well, it was a investor forum, and they had this AI doctor, and I had to admit, it's better than us. We thought we were so great going to medical school, memorizing, obeying laws. And, in the end, now we can be replaced. The AI can prescribe the medicines, manage the complications better. It's great parlor trick to be able to say, oh, you probably have this, which I remember from 30 years ago. But let's be honest, the true cause of disease is disease, right? So tell us how you came to realize, tell us your story, why you pivoted from chiropractic and then into this amazing whole millennia-old science.
Yeah, so my journey, it's a really interesting journey. It involves my own stories, my own personal healing, and of course my patients. So as a chiropractor, I would get a lot of patients with comorbidities like secondary ailments, chronic ailments. It wasn't just neuromusculoskeletal as us chiropractors would treat. But then they would come in, not only they had pain due to whatever, but they also had maybe diabetes, hypertension, chronic fatigue, some sort of an autoimmunity, digestive issues, colitis, etc. And so that kind of made me want to dig in more into other scopes like functional medicine, which was the very first thing that I actually got certified in.
Mm,
Within like 5 years into chiropractic practice, I did that. So then
mm.
I started treating people doing functional medicine. And then my own personal healing journey, because as a full-time business owner and having my own clinic, I started having stress in my life.
Of course.
You know, you know that like in medical school or chiropractic school or whatever, they don't teach you how to be a business person, especially if you're a healer, like um innately, like you're a healer,
Right.
you're not a
Right, right.
business person. So the aspect of the business was really stressing me
Of
out.
course. And so you did what every normal, responsible business person would do. You folded up your practice for 6 months and lost the majority of your patients and went to India.
Well, that didn't happen until years later.
Oh, okay.
Before I went to India, I started doing yoga here in the States
Ah, yeah.
for myself.
Right, right, right.
It took me 9 years. So I started doing yoga for my own personal journey, and it helped me tremendously. Like stress went away, anxiety and insomnia went away, which was all like the triangle of like stress, anxiety, insomnia,
There you go. Yeah,
my
yeah.
work stress. And so I started doing yoga here, asanas only, meaning a physical practice. And that by itself, within 6 months to 2 years, I could tell you I was a new person. I continued that path for another 9 years before I decided I'm going to go to India.
I love it. Yeah, go to the source. Yeah. Well, I'm getting
Exactly.
chills now, So I was talking to AI the other day and I commented, about chills. And the first time I commented my blog, it took out the word chakra because it didn't understand it. Thought it was nonsense. I thought I was hallucinating. But I come at it from a science training and I don't believe in stuff and whatever, but if you experience it in your body, right, there's no denying it. The stress went away. Every time I went go in a yoga class, because I've done it for many years now, you always end with more energy despite this rigorous exercise. And what is that? So let's talk about that just a little bit, shall we? So my journey with yoga started at age 15. I got a book called Yoga for Americans by Indra Devi. And I guess that the Hollywood actresses, to say slim, they would always do yoga as they do now. And there's it comes and goes in the culture. People rediscover it. But the word yoke or yoga
Mhm.
takes me back to my father's brain surgery. He went into Cedars to get a tumor removed. And then he said, please remember these three words because I don't know if I wake up, they'll be there. And they were decoct, meaning like to take out the essence of an herb, decoct an herb.
Mhm.
Trellis. I mean, my dad loved obscure words. Trellis, the crawling structure, and yoke, which I thought was an interesting choice. The thing they put around an ox to make
Yeah.
it pull something.
Yeah.
And the word yoke comes from yoga, and the word religion comes from, rejoining. So this is just religion.
Mhm.
And now that there's so many schools, there's Iyengar and Bikram, I tried to go back to the source. So you went and you studied, but if you think about it, when I think about it, there's karma or action yoga, bhakti or loving yoga, Raja, which is meditation, royal yoga, Jnana, which is knowledge or thinking consciousness yoga, Hatha, which is force or physical yoga, which you do the asanas, and then there's tantric or kundalini or esoteric yoga, which people misinterpret as somewhat sexual. But you think that the yoga saved your life. I think it always is good for me when I go. What are the nadis? Can you tell me? Because, someone once told me, the alternate nostril breathing, right? So at the beginning of a class, my right nostril is open to heat me up. And at the end, it's always the left nostril open. Is that from the nadis, like the little spiral left, right, center channels?
Yeah. So pretty much going back to the history of yoga, you named the different styles of yoga. Like, for example, Jnana yoga, the yoga of knowledge,
Hmm.
Bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, right? Karma yoga, yoga of action, etc. Now, Raja is actually the royal path, is the path of Hatha. It's not,
Good.
yeah. So Raja Yoga, it's the not only meditation, it's an eight-limb yoga, which includes asana, which is
Mm,
physical practice. It includes pranayama,
mm,
which
mm.
includes, breathing meditation, dharana, pratyahara, dhyana, samadhi. So it's an eight limb. So Raja Yoga, it's the eight-limb yoga of Patanjali,
Right.
which which is
So the Raja,
inviting.
the royal yoga was never just meditation like Zen. It
It
also
wasn't,
always
but
incorporated the hatha. Okay.
because the end game was using all the other limbs like yamas and niyamas, which means how you treat yourself internally, but how
Mm,
you treat the outside world,
right.
including anything, humans, animals, the
I
planet.
love that. So
So
it's a
yamas and
relinking, it's a bringing back. So if we take it, what are we connecting with? Are we connecting with our breath? Are we connecting with are we uniting our chakras? Are we connecting with other people or all
so
the
let me
spirits?
okay, so
What
let me
is,
finish that
yeah.
thought. So the hatha or the eight-limb yoga, its ultimate goal is to have you be able to sit in meditations for hours and maybe days.
Mm,
That is why Raja Yoga was more focused in that sense of maybe the Western interpretation of it,
mm,
only the meditation aspect of it. But you do everything else before that, including breath work, to be able to be still in your mind and stable in your body so you could sit in for hours of meditation to reach samadhi or enlightenment.
isn't that
Now,
interesting? Okay.
breath is the bridge. Breath is the bridge between the body and the mind.
I love
Now,
that. Yeah.
if you look at yogic physiology and anatomy, the body and the mind aren't two separate things. Exactly. So when you talk about chakras, when you talk about nadis, they're part of the energy system, which basically it's a part of the subtle body.
Yeah.
the astral body.
Isn't that
So
interesting? So I have here a demonstration of what our energy field looks like. The donut.
yeah, like
So
they're
yeah.
around.
So just like the Earth, we have a toroidal field around us. This is literally, some people say they can see an aura, but it always interests me because I was looking at the origins of yoga, and Sadhguru was talking about 15,000 years ago. I don't know if that's correct. I think it's probably closer to 5,000, but it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. The
yes.
point is that this toroidal field is real. It can be measured. So
Mhm.
when we talk about the chakras, they say there's 7, 12, 13, 100 and something. I don't know, but seven
The
works for
nadis,
me. Yeah,
the nadis.
no, I'm
You
talking about the chakras. So let's just do a beginner review for the people, okay? So there's the root chakra,
yeah.
like survival, like safety, kind of
Muladhara, yeah.
muladhara. Okay, thank you. And then the sacral chakra, what's that called?
Swatisthana,
Okay, that's the creativity and like the sexual energy. And then the social, solar plexus chakra,
Manipuraka.
Manipuraka.
It's
And then
actually not the soul. So there are different schools. The third
hmm
chakra, Manipuraka.
mm,
Some people say that's the solar plexus, but
mm,
there is another school of thought which basically I'm a more sort of advocate for the second alternative thought process, which is you have the Manipuraka, the third chakra, then
mm.
you have the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra,
Right.
but between the two, you have the solar plexus.
Ah, okay. Subtle
And
distinction.
in medicine, we have a solar plexus
Yeah,
in medicine,
the celiac or
right here.
whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is a lot of the amalgamation of all the nerves that suddenly branch out of the uh,
Correct.
cervical plexus, then the other plexus right here, and then
Brachial. Yeah, yeah.
the
So let's
brachial
talk.
plexus
Let's just for completeness,
and the
let's go.
sacral plexus. Yeah,
In the middle is the heart. We're heart-centered beings. Then comes the throat. What's that called?
Vishuddhi or Vishuddha
Vishuddhi. And
is
this one
the
is what? Anahata? Did we mention that?
anahata,
Okay. And
anahata,
then we have the intuition, right? What's that called?
ajna or ajna.
Okay. So that's
Mhm.
our psychic abilities, right? And then there's the crown, right? What's that called?
Sahasrar.
Okay. So let me introduce another thing from my life. So when I did the nasal exosome 6 years ago, at 1 hour, I had a rush, like catacomby, like excitement on a roller coaster. And at 2 hours, my hair stood on end. And my friend said that when your chakras are working together like spinning wheels, like you can do that. So for 6 years, so I wanted to make sure it was safe for my patients. So I did this nasal exosome injection. And for the last 6 years, it unlocked this ability to make my hair stand on end voluntarily, which I kind of just filed away. I thought that was weird. But there's a word I came across in my research called sahaja, or sudden awakening. So instead of working and meditating and doing my work, it just came on me biologically, chemically, who knows? But I do think that that's a real thing because I've experienced it. What do you think about the chakras being both metaphorical but also literal energy fields? What do you think?
Yeah. So, any advanced yogi will tell you that chakras are real because you experience them. You certainly experience the
I think
chakras.
so. I think all of
I mean, I
Western
have, and
civilization.
I know other people have.
Yeah, this is
And
what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
I went to Harvard Medical School for training, Harvard undergrad, Columbia. But at the end of the day, like, I can't believe what I'm getting on CNN, but I can believe what I'm experiencing every day. And you experienced relief from your anxiety and,
it
from
wasn't the only
yoga.
thing. It wasn't the
Yeah.
only thing. So by the time I went to India, I had actually done a lot of the practices that are called Kriya Yoga,
Mm,
from the school of Isha, Hatha Yoga, and of course, school of meditation and inner sciences. I had already done a lot of Kriya Yoga.
mm,
And it was the experiences of Kriya Yoga that basically gave me awareness of my chakras, gave me awareness of my
mm.
subtle body, gave me, experiences that are beyond the body that actually led me to India.
Is that interesting? So, yeah, you're being guided by the experiences. You cannot deny the experiences. So,
Yeah.
let's about
So yeah.
13 years ago, I met a shaman trained in the Brazilian whatever shamanism. And she said, I asked her, why are you here at this conference? I was giving a lecture. She goes, well, I think you called me. And I don't know what that means. I'm kind of laughing it off. So she did a therapy, and I guess some people call it Reiki or whatever. But there was no like, tell me about your childhood, this kind of thing. What was your mom like? I just lay there for 30 minutes breathing. She said, you're safe once or twice, and that's it. And she must have been doing something. I'm not discounting that. But she swears that she'll sue me if I say you cured me. But after 30 minutes, my entire lower torso, I mean, my legs down were buzzing with electricity. So what is that? I didn't read about that in medical school. That just means that some phenomenon happened. So like you were kind of alluding to with your problematic complex patients, the body had locked in some kind of trauma and it was released in electrical things. And the weirdest thing was I could look in the mirror without having negative self-talk for the first time in years. So that was a phenomenon. And then we came back, I did the second 30 minutes, and then it was buzzing to the head as I was working through a previous breakup recently. So you cannot explain away a phenomenon, whether it's delusional or psychogenic. If you experience it, what can you deny,
You're
right?
right. Yeah, your experiences are real and experiential knowledge, it's the best evidence for what is true to you, right?
Hmm.
It may not be the same for someone else, but that's why it's called an inner science, because you in your own sort of tapping into your own body and into
Right.
your own, energetic system, etc., you have realizations. Now, it could either come from external, like either someone can input, like
Right.
do
The power of
therapy or
suggestion. No,
whatever.
I think it was a software program like defragmenting my hard drive.
Right.
Like
Or it could come with
yeah,
the regular practice, right?
yeah.
If you do your own regular practices, the body that is a healer, that the innate intelligence that is in contact with the universal intelligence knows how to heal itself.
That's it. That's it. It's a
Yeah.
subconscious. So,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm cheating. I take an exome shot. All of a sudden, my chakras are working together. I go see a shaman. All of a sudden, I have like purged the childhood trauma. So what I did actually, without instruction, was to go back into childhood, see the areas of conflict, and reframe them. It's like 30 minutes of alchemy. You know, this would take years in therapy and a lot of money. So it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like there must be a program connected through your crown that the spirit tells you, here's the great work you need to do. So all
Mhm.
through the Middle Ages, they had these esoteric teachings. They called it alchemy or whatever. But even the things like the caduceus, when I was looking at the picture of the nadis, they weren't
Oh, yeah.
like this. They were like spirals. And it was the caduceus. It was two snakes rising up. And
Right.
well, anyway, we're kind of losing people. So maybe I just want to say, I think when you experience something, it has to be true. But let's shift to Ayurveda per se, because if you
I
look
haven't
at,
answered your question about the nadis. You jumped to from
I'm
one
so
thing.
sorry. I'm trying to get done
That's
in
okay.
30 minutes. Yeah,
That's
but
okay.
but I swear, nobody like they don't teach you how to relax in grade school. They don't teach you how to do business in chiropractic school, and they don't teach you that if you breathe through the right nostril, you'll get hot, and if you breathe through the left, you'll get cold. But that
Mhm.
seems to be 100% true.
Right. So the nadis, Ida and Pingala, what we call them. Pingala is the nadi that is a channel on the right side of the spine
Right,
that starts from Muladhara, the first chakra, and it ends here in the Ajna chakra.
right.
And it gives rise to 36,000 energy pathways or nadis that supply the right side of the body
Oh my
that
God.
is masculine in
Right.
nature,
Hot. Like
Pingala.
the
It's
Chinese
in
would
touch with
say
the sun
yang.
energy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so therefore it's heating, but it has all the masculine traits, like it's logical, it's go-getter, it's
Right, right.
aggressive, etc. Then you have Ida on the left side of the body, which is feminine in nature. It's in touch with the moon energy, so it's cooling
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's compassionate and intuitive,
Right, right,
all
right.
feminine attributes. But it gives also 36,000 gives rise to 36,000 energy pathways that supply the left side of the body. Now, there is a crisscrossing that happens at the level of the pineal gland. So, what you call as the left brain dominant is really a right side dominant, and
Correct.
vice versa, which
Right.
is provable in the
Yeah, it's
science
basic
of nervous
neuroscience.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah, neuroscience. So, but the reason they basically crisscross, it's not because they act like snakes, they look like that, but it's because they're traversing every chakra. They carry the prana or the life force through the breath. And that's why breathing is the key to reaching certain levels of consciousness and enlightenment.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So it
I came away
carries in
from
the.
the 3-day festival where you were a speaker. And my first interview was Loretta Gold. She talked about psychedelic assisted therapy. And the thing is, I enjoyed it, but the two things I got from that is that you need to breathe consciously and that you just need to love yourself. That's pretty much all I got from the festival. But your talk was, of course, brilliant. You broke down the medical establishment
Oh,
with the
thank
Rockefeller, petroleum, everything. But thank you for that explanation. That's a beautiful way to visualize it. So, and you think about people, right brain, left brain, logical or intuitive, blah, blah, blah. But isn't it just a whole, right? The Chinese have the yin and the yang, but
you.
there is no whole, there's no holistic without the male and the female or whatever. And you just see if you go to India, I've never been in this life, but they have these hermaphrodite gods. Like there's something sacred about that union. It's not just we're all masculine or all feminine, right?
Yeah, so you have your DNA or genetic information of the XY and XX chromosome, but that gives rise to your physical attributes in the body. Now that's the law of nature. There is no circumventing that,
Mm,
unless you do some surgery or something like that. However, no matter what your gender is, you have to have a balanced perspective of these two energetics. Too much logic,
mm.
too much go-getter aggressive energy is not in union with the sacred law of nature. You have to balance it out with compassion and love and intuition,
That's right.
no matter whether you're a man or a woman. So that is like the symbolism, and of course, hermaphrodite is completely a different anatomical and physiological
Yeah.
anomaly, which is correct and true. But but even that hermaphrodite only has the sexual characteristics of the both male and female. But even that hermaphrodite may be more dominant in the feminine or the masculine, still
Sure.
not balanced. You
I
understand?
think it's great, great, yeah. But I think that when I look at ancient history, and most people may not know that, our even language, most of the European languages, except for seven, are Indo-European. So all these words, the history, Iran or Persia was immediately adjacent to India until 1949. There's so much that we've lost through the conquest. And I wrote a screenplay about Hypatia, one of my favorite characters in the city of Alexandria.
Oh, wow, look at
And
that.
on the night of 415, I think they killed her and the Christian mob took over. And a lot of the Greeks went to India. And so there's a city in India. I hear that there's a lot of white looking people.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, it's an amazing part of history. In 50 years, they went from making fun of Christians to Christians dominating. But for 1,000 years until the Enlightenment and Renaissance, like the West was dominated by this left brain thinking, this fascistic sort of you listen or you go to hell. And it was a real slowdown in the way that humans could have progressed. I but anyway, that's not for me to judge. But
But I hear you.
Descartes got it backwards. He said, "I think, therefore I
Therefore, I am.
am." It's the other way around. I am, therefore I think, and I feel, and I'm here to manifest. So
Yeah, I am that I am.
I am that I am. Yeah, but it's like you look at the gods, the more controlling religions are like, I'm a jealous God. Sure, there are other gods, but listen to me and let's all stick together and screw our neighbor while saying
And
we're loving them.
the funny part of it, because you pointed to Christianity, is that in fact the message of Jesus was so different from a lot of the talking points of a lot of the Christian churches in
Right,
today's world, right?
right,
Like
right.
he wasn't, he said even the Gentiles are loved by God. Even, I love them,
Well, I don't want to delve into historical Jesus. I did go to Conscious Life Festival. There was a guy who was talking about the esoteric history of Jesus and Mary, but I think from my point
Yeah.
of view, it calls to mind my friend Tamara, who claims to have remembered past lives. And until last year, I didn't really believe in past lives, but so many people told me about theirs. And now I have this meta theory that chronic illness, like psychological illness, maybe from childhood trauma that's remembered and perhaps interpreted in a certain way.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of chronic illness maybe are memories on the system of past lives. What do you think?
Well, there is the concept of, it's a brilliant point you brought up. There is a concept in Ayurveda and yoga as samskaras and the imprints of, it's not just karma, it is
Mhm.
karma, but samskaras are the imprints in the template before you're even born into this body.
Mhm.
So at the time of conception, you have your Ayurvedic constitution or Prakriti, which is your bioelemental genetics at the time of conception. Well, a lot of it is coming from the karmic template or ahamkaras.
Isn't that
which also
interesting?
include the samskaras, which are the imprints from the past lives.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
So,
it's interesting. I mean, Tamara was my karaoke buddy, and she had some remembrances in India long ago. And she thought she remembered being Cleopatra's sister and had some very interesting divergent commentary on historical Jesus. But since you
oh,
mentioned Ayurveda, which literally means Ayus, life, and Veda, knowledge, let's
mhm.
talk about Ayurveda. So it's just basically like science of the body and the life science. So,
Yeah.
but the thing that didn't jive with me as a Western educated person is this notion that we're imprinted with three tendencies, either uh, vata, pitta, and kapha, which is vata is prana or air or breath, pitta is fieriness or bile, and kapha is water and phlegm. And then the Greeks had their own five bile system, which they probably borrowed, but this has no analog really in cellular biology and modern like genetic biochemical theory. How useful is this, or is it just like a metaphorical like horoscope?
Well, actually, it's beyond what you just said. Like, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata is air and space.
Hmm.
Pitta is fire and water, and Kapha is earth and water. Now, that is bioelemental energetics, right? And so, for example, you could say that Vata is involved or controller of movements, circulation, breath moving, bile, anything that moves in the body is Vata. Anything that has to do with digestion and metabolism at the level of the body and the mind is pitta,
Hmm.
fire, and water. And also vata, which you said it's prana, but it's air and space, you could say it's prana, and vayus, all the movements. It also includes the mind, movement of the thoughts and imagination and things of that nature. So pitta is metabolism and digestion at the level of the mind and body, and kapha is structure. Earth and water are very
Mm,
heavy, and
mm.
so they have substance. And so that's your brick and mortar of the body, the structure. You understand? And also a lymphatic system of the body.
So I
And
guess
so, but here
it's
is the thing. No, no,
yeah,
let me finish. Let me
please.
finish because I don't want to do injustice to Ayurveda. It actually has its own anatomy and physiology. We have seven different tissues that link to cells that combine together. So it
Right.
has cellular physiology
Okay.
and it has pathophysiology. That is why you have to go to a school of Ayurveda to become an adept or an expert in Ayurveda. So there is anatomy and physiology, there is neurology, internal medicine in Ayurveda. And so it really is a profound system of medicine.
No, I
And
can't possibly do it justice in 30 minutes, but even
yeah.
those three aspects, they give rise to the five elements, earth, wind, fire, air, and ether. And then those give rise to these five types of movements or tendencies. But I love the fact that it comes out, you can represent it as a pentagram, which is really interesting.
So the five elements
Yeah.
actually give rise to the doshas, to the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So you said it
I had it
backwards.
backwards. Okay.
So we have the concept of Pancha Mahabhutas, which is the essence of the universe is made up of the five elements. The
Ah.
entire universe
Yeah,
is
they say
made up
that
of
movie like Bruce Willis, The Fifth Element, the fifth being ether or this sort of universal consciousness, whatever.
not consciousness,
Yeah.
exactly.
So anyway, so that's the five elements that give rise to the three tendencies in the middle, which give rise to the aspects of physiology and motion. Okay, but so let's bring it back to the real. So for 8 years, I had a company called Lokahi Guru. Lokahi is uh, flow. And Guru, as you know, is one who dispels darkness. And it was stupid, unmemorable, crazy name. I don't know why I chose it. But I was making the TA65 generic and I experimented with different iterations and I came upon one that was gentle enough. Rhodiola was too activating.
Mhm.
So it had, of course, the cycloestranol TA65. It had ashwagandha and holy basil or tulsi. And then it had a Chinese one called gynostemma. People liked it. It was good. My question is adaptogens. Like it's such a miracle when I see something that for a sleepy person makes them awake and for an awake person makes them sleepy. So how do these master herbs, for example, holy basil and ashwagandha, how do they have the consciousness to balance? It must be at a higher level, no?
Right. So that's why if you look at the philosophy of Ayurveda and yoga, we say that the entire universe is made up of these five elements, which are created by the universal intelligence. So they are intelligent. They have the intelligence of communicating with any living cell to know what physiologically has to happen or what are the biochemical reactions that have to happen to balance something in the
Mm,
body or in nature.
it's
So
amazing.
that's our, lack of, I guess all of us, like in-depth thinking about what is really a plant. And when there are studies that say you could actually talk to plants.
Mm.
You could either give them loving energy or not, and they'll die.
Yeah.
Also, like, the fungi that are in like very like microscopic levels in the soil that do the communication between different plant life,
Mhm.
right? Different plants and plant life. So that's the way that plants communicate with each other through those
Amazing. I
spores.
mean, yeah, well, they have these exosomes too. A lot of people are
Right,
taking plant
right,
exosomes. Someone just
right.
emailed me about salmon exosomes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, universe as above, so below. It's infinitely complex. We are a microcosm of the greater. I had a funny conversation 2 nights ago with AI. I was a little intoxicated, and it was spouting all these great theories. But one of the theories that my shaman always says is the universe just incarnates because it's bored and it wants to experience stuff. But we're never really quite disconnected from the great spirit, right? The Maha or the world soul.
We are not. Yeah, absolutely. Mahat. Yeah. And so, that is the next, like, so you have the two forces of creation, which is masculine and feminine. You have either Purusha, or you could call it Shiva, or, whatever in any other philosophy. And then you have the Prakriti or Shakti energy. And they come together, and there is this big bang or Om, the sound of Om that
Yeah.
vibrates the entire. From that, you
Big
got
shift.
I know. From that, you get the Mahat. Mahat, or the universal intelligence, the laws
Yeah.
of nature,
Yeah. Yeah.
which in order to manifest, they need elements. So they have the Mahapanchabhutas, the five elements at the level of the template.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then from that, you extract the actual Ankara, which is the ego, which gives rise to the individualization. Then you have the more physical five elements.
Right.
Then of course you have the senses, and it's an like a chapter in Ayurveda and yoga about the creation and how all of these things came about.
Well, it's so interesting. The modern era, was started with Madame Blavatsky. I think she was a Russian, and she discovered the ancient texts. But, the ancient texts were always known to the alchemists. They're hidden in the Library of the Vatican, the Library of Alexandria, which burned down. But, people have been studying this. It feels like we've been going backwards. I don't know if I believe in Atlantis, but it seems like they had a lot of really cool answers thousands of years ago. You mentioned Patanjali, but even in the
Yeah.
in the older, Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas, it's
Yes.
just knowledge. There was knowledge, and it seems like there's always been this artificer in the Neoplatonic school. It's funny how we even time things around the supposed birth of Jesus,
Mhm.
before, after, common era, whatever. But like Chinese, I think the Jews exaggerated their calendar, but history goes back a long way,
Yes,
really.
true.
And you look at the plagiarism, even at CERN, Oppenheimer or whoever built the statue of dancing Shiva, when he blew up the first nuke, he said, I am Shiva, destroyer of worlds, or I am,
Mm.
what did he say? Something like that? I am
Wow.
become death, destroyer
Wow.
of worlds. Like people are always plagiarizing from the Vedas and ancient wisdom. I feel like just go to the original source like you did. You went to India. Even like in business school, they teach Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It
Oh yeah.
rhymes a lot with the chakras, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of rich stuff that we don't have to work that hard to rediscover now.
Carl Jung admittedly studied the ancient
Of
texts.
course. Yeah, yeah. But we need these translators, these Rosetta
Yeah.
Stones,
Yes.
or Manly Hall,
Yes.
Carl Jung,
Yeah.
Blavatsky, because it gets lost. But I
Yes.
feel so sad about history. That's why I wrote that screenplay. I like historical figures. I wrote one about African American jockey who was a slave, a trainer, owner in the Kentucky Derby. So
Mhm.
interesting how in their time they're famous worldwide, and then they get erased. So this is the Library of Alexandria. I hope to go there this summer.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
no, I think, have you lived in India many lives, do you think? Do you have any
Yes.
recollection?
Yes.
Must be.
So, yeah, oh, totally. I knew it. Like, because, you sit in these long days of meditation that is during like a disciplined program, and there are certain, well, you can't look at you can't even have access to your phone. So you really go deep and it
Mm,
breaks your barriers.
mm.
And then you start to experience certain things. And during those experiences, it was downloaded on that I definitely was in
Isn't that
India.
interesting?
I
Oh my God, I
probably
just
was
have,
the
yeah,
most
I got
most likely
chills.
a yogi because I also knew concepts that I never studied
Right.
before.
It's like instant.
In
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
We age because our telomeres shorten and our stem cells deplete. But what if we could support both? I've been taking TA65 for 17 years. It's the only supplement I trust to support better mood, better sleep, and exercise recovery. And at age 57, I don't have any gray hair and I don't need reading glasses. TA65 is available now. Go to rechargebiomedical.com/TA-65 and enter promo code RECHARGE10 to save 10% off.
Well,
yeah,
I think it just speaks like we can't all be Cleopatra and Napoleon, but we can be a drop of that. So it's like Rumi said, the great Sufi poet, you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in a drop. So we have instant access to all the past life memories, right? I
yeah.
presume. I don't, I know
I mean,
literally nothing.
the only thing that honestly, I knew during those meditation experiences was India, but I have other paths? Probably, but that's the only thing I have access to.
Is
Yeah.
well, let's talk about that because I've known a couple of people that have done Vipassana, and I
Mhm.
maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but if people want to enter in a radical way, and we're not talking Julia Roberts and Bali, we're talking
No,
like
no.
11 days of retreat. Apparently, the Vipassana program is free. If people just want to break free, the people who've graduated pay for you to go. So if you want a radical life transformation, there is this thing, right? Is there one school of Vipassana, like on the corner of a street, or is it many places? What do you think?
I don't know. I know about Vipassana, but I have never looked at it to know if there is
I don't
like
know if it's called, I don't know if they sell teeth whitening
right,
toothpaste, but
right.
apparently, yeah, you can go have a deeply spiritual experience and it's
Yeah,
free,
yeah,
and because the graduates pay for it. And I guess it
yeah,
has a lot to do with meditation on
yeah,
silence and love and just
yeah.
oneness, or I guess
Yeah,
that
but
would
you can
be,
do
yeah.
that with so many different schools of yoga. Like so many, like Isha has them, like Samyama with Sadhguru, and he used to have programs that were 90 days. I mean, he only did it twice. And 90 days of sitting and only meditate. It literally, you are definitely born new, anew. That is
Yeah.
death and being a newborn. Like
Yeah.
I definitely have experienced that. And it's not 11 days, it's not, but he only did it twice because he also says that it takes your life energy. It takes a lot of your life energy. And
Yeah.
he's only done it twice. And he also doesn't think that everybody is ready for it and
Mm.
not everybody can do it. But there used to be programs that were 8 weeks. So, and the 8 weeks of disciplined actions and yoga and meditation, you're guaranteed to experience certain things. And for a lot of people, is past life, but for a lot of people, is downloading knowledge
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
certain realizations and seeing things that are otherwise not seen with the human eye. It
Well,
is,
it's like, when I think about my dad going into surgery and waking up so happy to remember trellis, yoga, and decoct, I just know that we're never disconnected from anything, from any of our chakras. It's just only the obsession and the sort of rumination that gets us stuck, which then engenders in different forms as disease. That's what I think,
yeah,
knowing nothing. But like you said, yoga, there's no need to reconnect. We're always connected through service, karma, through love, bhakti, through meditation and force, through the raja and the knowledge, just jnana. So I think it's a great thing. I want to close and say, there's an expression, people say namaste. What does namaste mean, first of all?
well, it's basically greeting and acknowledging the God in the other person as you have it in you.
Is it better to go here or here? They told me here, the heart.
Okay, so if you're a sannyas or you're a monk,
Yeah.
if you're a brahmachari, sannyas, or a monk, then
Yeah.
you could do it here. And that's basically a traditional thing that you do it here or here. But if you're a householder, as they call it in the language of yoga and translated to English, meaning you're not a monk, you're not,
Yeah.
then you do it at the heart.
I do it here then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So now, I never knew the translation until just now, but it's location, all beings that are together, happy and free. They say, may all beings be happy and free. So
Yeah.
it's, can you say that for us?
Look, I'm not, this is like a Iyengar thing.
It's a shtick, but I like it. It's a nice mantra. So it's, it
Loka
says here,
samaste,
Loka Samasta,
samaste.
Sukino
Lukino Wavantu, Wavantu,
Bhavantu. Yes,
Wavantu. Yeah.
yes. May
But
all
then,
beings be happy and free.
okay.
I love
But then
that.
there are so many, like there is that other one, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Murtyurma, Amratangamaya, Om
Yeah.
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Oh, beautiful.
There's so many like that, that you can say for many different reasons because they're mantras.
Yeah, yeah.
They're mantras and they serve a different purpose. So
I love it.
yeah.
So now you probably grew up speaking Farsi or something like that.
Farsi, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever fully get good at any form of Hindi, or did you go straight to Sanskrit, or not so
Sanskrit,
much?
like Ayurveda is Sanskrit
Right,
and yoga is Sanskrit.
right. So you just went to the source. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And but it's interesting because Hindi and Sanskrit have common words with Farsi, with the
Of course.
Persian
Yeah,
language.
why wouldn't they?
Yeah, which was interesting to me. But yeah.
All right. Well, Alhamdulillah.
No, that's not Farsi.
That's Arabic, I know. But I love
But
I
that's
love
okay.
I love how Iranians are always saying, "Oh, thanks God, if God wills it. Oh, praise be to God." It's hilarious. There's a lot of God in that culture.
Yeah, there is like, I mean, if you go back to the ancient Persians, Zoroastrian, they
Yeah.
also was like how do you call it? Like monotheistic kind of.
Ahura Mazda. Yeah,
Ahura
yeah.
Mazda. So,
Yeah.
it's like ingrained in the Persian culture to be connected to the concept of God. But here is the thing, my own dad was an atheist.
Yeah.
And by the time he got very old and closer to like, passing away, like the last 10 years of his life, let's say, that he has gained more experience
Yeah.
and maybe more esoteric knowledge, etc. He was an agnostic. He no longer said,
What a stubborn guy. He went from a
right?
definite no to a soft maybe.
Correct? Correct. Like he was hardcore. But the funny part of it, he is one of the only atheists or agnostics that was into mysticism. He's
Yeah.
the one who took me to SRF Self-Realization Fellowship on Suns. He is the one
I
who
love that place. Yeah, that's
he
great.
is the one who told me about Yogananda. He's
I
the
think
one
he
who
just
told me
wanted to play
about
hard to get with the universe. He still had
it
a
could be.
lifelong love affair. Yeah, he
I
just wanted to.
totally, I totally, Rumi, he's the one who introduced me to Rumi when I was
Yeah.
like 16 years old. So, and, he had like a library of 300 books of like all kinds of philosophies and religions, and he would tap deep. So he was doing yoga based on a book in Farsi. That was old. I
Yeah,
inherited
it's
that.
like, yeah, I think it's amazing. And I think we're always connected. And after talking to AI recently, I realized that it's a reflection of us. So it's just a funny game. But I think the universe brought me to your lecture, and I'm so glad you're able to
Oh,
share your wisdom. It's just the surface. The
thank you.
surface. And so if people want to connect with you, I know you have a practice. What's the name of your website?
YourVitalityDoctor.com.
I love it. Okay. And you're here in Los Angeles
Doc-
area-ish.
Yeah.
YourVitalityDoctor.com. And tell
Yeah.
us the name of the two books that you've written.
Okay, so Holy You, WHOLLYU, Holy You, bestseller on Amazon, and it's about basically it has 11 chapters on Ayurveda, functional medicine, yoga, breath work, mind, meditation, mind. And of course, it ties in the Western concept of body and chemistry with the yoga and Ayurvedic concept of body and mind and quantum physics. So I bring that in. And each chapter has like an assignment, like very practical, simple steps that anybody can do to reach a little bit of a more optimized health.
I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
it's a do-it-yourself guide. I also wrote a book like that,
Yes.
which it's kind of funny. It's called The Telomere Miracle. I was reading it. I
Oh,
I don't remember a single thing I wrote in here, but we go into the mind and consciousness, and I think that
Yeah.
tapping into this, like, why not take a shortcut? Like, don't read the latest guru on YouTube. Go to the source. There's so many great stuff.
Yeah.
Patanjali, there's Yogananda, but the original stuff is we have access to the ancient wisdom. It's so much more efficient than trying to guess what the latest paper in science means.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you. It's been lovely knowing you, and we hope people connect with you. And
Yeah, thank you so much for
namaste.
having me, and
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversation very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Recharge Biomedical Podcast. If today's episode got you thinking, you'll love my book, Exosomes Songs of Healing. It's packed with cool analogies, full color illustrations, and all the science you'll need to understand how exosomes are changing the game in aging and regenerative medicine. You can grab it in paperback, ebook, or audiobook, whatever works for you. Now head over to www.rechargebiomedical.com to check it out. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you next time.